At the age of 70, Dieter Bohlen, the mastermind behind Modern Talking, has finally broken his silence regarding the darkest corners of his musical empire. Behind 120 million records sold lies a labyrinth of lies, copyright lawsuits, and personal animosity spanning decades. The world once danced to their melodies, but few know that this success was built upon the ruins of friendship and professional deception. The most shocking secrets about the real voices behind the hits and the true reasons they can no longer stand each other are now coming to light. In the early 1980s, Dieter was merely an anonymous music producer, tirelessly churning out cheap tunes to make ends meet. He possessed a burning ambition to transform music into an industrial assembly line that could print money. The fateful turning point occurred in 1983 when Dieter met Thomas Anders, a young singer with flowing hair and expressive eyes. In Dieter's eyes, Thomas was not a remarkably talented artist, but a perfect commercial product he could mold at will. From the very beginning, this relationship was not based on equality. Dieter Bohlen once confessed in his autobiography, Nichts als die Wahrheit, that I only needed a handsome face to stand in front of the camera. As for the soul of the song, I would be the one to decide everything. The project named Modern Talking was established in late 1984 with the goal of conquering the charts at all costs. Their debut hit, You're My Heart, You're My Soul, was released in October 1984 and initially received little attention. Following an appearance on the television show Formel 1, the song exploded like an earthquake, turning two unknown men into global stars overnight. Behind those massive sales figures lay a truth meticulously hidden within the studio. Dieter Bohlen knew that Thomas Anders' voice, while sweet, lacked the weight to create a real impact. To solve this, he constructed a ghost sound system involving anonymous singers like Rolf Köhler. The soaring falsetto choruses, the weapon that helped Modern Talking dominate the world, were not actually performed primarily by Thomas or Dieter. This deception was carried out so sophisticatedly that even industry insiders were fooled. On stage, Thomas Anders simply moved his lips to carefully orchestrated tapes, while Dieter stood beside him pretending to play guitar with a scornful smile. The success of the first album in early 1985 reinforced Dieter's belief that the public did not care about the truth. They only needed catchy melodies and a polished look. Thomas Anders gradually felt himself becoming nothing more than a puppet in Dieter's hands. Frustration mounted as Thomas realized he was merely a part of the wealth-building plan of his talented but calculating partner. Dieter constantly imposed his will on every aspect, from clothing to song selection, turning Thomas into a minor character in his own story. Heated arguments began to surface during recording sessions at Studio 33 in Hamburg. Dieter did not hesitate to criticize Thomas in front of staff, disregarding the singer's artistic contributions. By late 1985, while Modern Talking was at its peak with a string of hits topping the charts in over 30 countries, their internal foundation had rotted from within. Dieter Bohlen made no secret of his intention to replace Thomas whenever he deemed it necessary. Rapid success transformed friendship into a hidden hostility, where each man had his own calculations for the future. When the stage lights dimmed, they would not even look at each other backstage, creating a haunting contrast to the intimate image on their album covers. Everything finally exploded when a third character appeared, directly intervening in the empire Dieter had painstakingly built: Nora and the Collapse. The appearance of Nora Bohlen in 1985 transformed a boy band at the height of its glory into a true battlefield between love and fame. Nora was not only Thomas Anders' wife, but also the person who directly challenged Dieter Bohlen's absolute power. Dieter described this woman in his autobiography, Nichts als die Wahrheit, with undisguised dread. Nora was a nightmare dressed in glamour. She wanted to possess everything belonging to Thomas, including my band. Nora began to interfere deeply in professional matters, from choosing performance outfits to demanding to stand on stage as an official member, which Dieter viewed as an insult to his professionalism. The conflict reached a breaking point when Nora forced Thomas to wear a massive gold necklace spelling Nora during every public appearance. This image became a laughingstock across German newspapers, but for Dieter, it was evidence that he was losing control over his partner. In the newspaper Bild, reporters of that era described the group's concerts as more of a tragicomic play than a musical event. Dieter recalled a classic incident during a 1986 tour in Munich. She banned female reporters from approaching Thomas and even kicked me out of the dressing room just because I wanted to discuss the set list. Nora's presence created a toxic atmosphere that left Thomas Anders completely isolated from the rest of the production team. Thomas, caught between loyalty to his wife and duty to the band, chose to remain silent and comply with all of Nora's demands. This made Dieter Bohlen feel deeply betrayed by the man he had brought out of the shadows. Dieter declared bitterly in an interview, "Thomas is no longer a man, he is just a shadow of Nora, and I cannot work with a shadow." This rift was no longer an internal secret but became a subject of gossip across all media outlets. The chaos peaked during a 1987 tour in South Africa, where arguments between Dieter and Nora took place publicly in front of the entire technical crew. Nora demanded to interfere in music videos and even insisted on changing the structure of the album In the Garden of Venus. Dieter, a perfectionist and autocrat, could no longer tolerate any interference in his brainchild. He realized that the money-printing machine known as modern talking was being destroyed by trivial personal conflicts. Each performance became a painful ordeal for both main members. In late 1987, Dieter Bohlen made a brutal decision to end this torment. While Thomas was on vacation with Nora in Los Angeles, Dieter unilaterally announced the group's disbandment through a shocking interview. Thomas only learned he had become unemployed through international news reports. This was a spiteful retaliation Dieter aimed at both Thomas and Nora, ending the first phase of Germany's most successful band in history with utter hatred. This first breakup was not just the end of a musical era, but also opened a dark new chapter of lawsuits. While Thomas and Nora attempted to build solo careers in the United States, Dieter remained in Germany and began preparing for a long legal battle. He had no idea that the secrets regarding the real vocals he had painstakingly hidden were about to be exposed by his own former teammates. Dieter's arrogance was tested once more when the ghost voices decided to stay silent no longer. The voices in the shadows. The collapse of modern talking in 1987 opened a Pandora's box of artistic fraud that Dieter Bohlen never wanted to admit. The biggest shock came when a trio of studio singers, Rolf Köhler, Michael Schultz, and Detlef Wiedeke, decided to step out of the shadows after years of silent contribution. They were the ones who created the signature soundscape with soaring octaves and skillful backing vocals in the group's classic albums. This secret was kept under strict contracts, but Dieter's arrogance made them feel insulted. Dieter had claimed in the media that he created every sound, a lie his former associates found unforgivable. In the early 2000s, the matter erupted into a sensational legal battle when these singers filed a lawsuit in court. They accused Dieter of misappropriating their intellectual property and vocal talent to deceive millions of fans worldwide. Rolf Köhler, the lead vocalist behind the choruses, shared candidly with Bild, "We sang all the most difficult parts while Dieter just stood there pretending he had an angelic voice." This naked truth shook the image of the genius producer Dieter had built. The public began to realize that Thomas Anders was not the only one lip-syncing, and that even the most signature echoes were a borrowed product. Dieter Bohlen initially resisted fiercely by asserting that he used studio techniques and machinery to transform his voice. Under the pressure of audio evidence and testimony from veteran sound engineers, he was forced to reach an out-of-court settlement. The newspaper Bild reported that Dieter had to pay a massive sum to settle the case and was forced to credit these singers in his subsequent productions, such as the Blue System project. This incident exposed a gruesome side of truth and lies in Dieter's career. Beyond borrowing voices, Dieter was also accused of using melodic segments from other international artists without permission. His industrial production system was criticized for lacking professional self-respect, where profit was placed above the actual value of the artist. Even the most loyal fans began to doubt every note they heard in Modern Talking's hits. Dieter became the center of criticism, labeled a melody thief, and a studio dictator willing to trample on his colleagues' rights for personal glory. Despite his reputation being severely damaged, Dieter showed no remorse or discouragement in the face of these allegations. He viewed the lawsuits merely as a cost of success and continued to pursue his ruthless music business philosophy. Thomas Anders, watching from afar, did not miss the chance to mock his former partner about the recently exposed deceptions. However, the massive revenue figures from re-releases eventually pulled the two enemies back together in a calculated plan. This reunion did not bring peace. Instead, it set the stage for an even larger explosion of financial and moral scandals that would soon be revealed. The reunion for money and the 2003 shock. In 1998, after more than 10 years of cutting off all contact, Modern Talking stunned the world by announcing a reunion. Dieter Bohlen later admitted in interviews that this return did not stem from a passion for music or personal reconciliation, but purely from the massive figures on the contracts. Dieter shared with Bild with his typical pragmatism. "We didn't need to love each other to earn millions of euros together." The return with the album Back for Good was a resounding success, selling over 10 million copies. But behind the smiles for the cameras was a toxic and cold symbiotic relationship. The relationship between the two during this period was merely a carefully staged act to please the public and record labels. Dieter continued to hold absolute control over all production stages, while Thomas Anders became a contractual worker with a high salary. Dieter made no secret of his contempt for his partner, asserting that Thomas was merely a tool for him to realize commercial ideas. The underlying tension between the producer's ego and the lead singer's ambition turned tours into mental ordeals. They did not even use the same transportation and only met for a few minutes before stepping onto the stage. The real shock arrived in June 2003, right during a farewell concert in Rostock before 25,000 stunned fans. Without a word of warning to Thomas, Dieter abruptly announced on stage that this would be the last time they stood together. Dieter accused Thomas of secretly conducting solo tours in the US and misappropriating band funds without his consent. This war immediately exploded in the press when Dieter published his next autobiography titled Hinter den Kulissen. In it, he publicly criticized Thomas as greedy, lazy, and dishonest in managing the group's shared finances. Thomas Anders did not remain silent as he had during the first breakup. He decided to fight back with a long legal battle to protect his honor. He filed a lawsuit against Dieter for defamation and requested the court to ban the publication of book chapters containing offensive content. Bild followed the case closely, describing it as a public purge between two musical icons. The court eventually ordered Dieter to pay tens of thousands of euros in compensation and to edit the book's content in subsequent editions. This was not just a lawsuit over money, but the total collapse of a musical icon in the public eye as the dark corners of greed and envy were exposed. This second breakup was far more destructive than the first because it eliminated any future chance of reconciliation. Dieter asserted that he felt financially betrayed, a sin he considered unforgivable in business. Conversely, Thomas believed Dieter was a dictator who always wanted to control others' lives through lies. When the glamour of the reunion faded, each man chose his own path, filled with unresolved hatred. Dieter Bohlen retreated backstage to focus on reality TV shows, where he continued to play the role of a harsh and blunt mogul. Thomas Anders continued his solo career but could never truly escape the massive shadow of the old hits. This decades-long feud became a part of their legacy, a bitter reminder that money can connect people but can also tear every relationship apart. Dieter's final confessions in his later years are the last piece of the puzzle to close a controversial chapter of history. A late confession. Turning 70, Dieter Bohlen no longer appears with the arrogance typical of reality shows, but has begun to face his legacy with an unusual solemnity. In his most recent interviews, he asserted that behind Modern Talking's brilliant success was an ultimate loneliness that money could not fill. Dieter shared during a special program on German television, "I spent my whole life building an empire of steel. But looking back, I realize I am standing alone in that castle." The truth he finally found the courage to reveal was his regret over how he transformed sincere relationships into cold commercial transactions. Perhaps the most profound and unsettling revelation Dieter shared in his twilight years was the realization that he had utterly sacrificed his personal identity to maintain the facade of an invincible, cold-blooded producer. He candidly admitted that systematically erasing the contributions of the actual vocalists behind their chart-topping hits was a heavy moral burden, a shadow that he expects to carry for the remainder of his days. Furthermore, when the subject of Thomas Anders arose, Dieter spoke with an unprecedented vulnerability. Gone was the sharp-tongued hostility that had defined their public feud for decades. In its place was a somber, late-onset regret for a once genuine friendship that had been ruthlessly torn to shreds by a toxic cocktail of unbridled greed and two colossal, clashing egos. The completely frozen relationship with Thomas remains a massive scar in Dieter's life that he knows can never be healed. He revealed that over the years, despite living in luxury, he was frequently haunted by the arguments and the awkward performances of the past. Dieter confessed in his latest memoir that the band was like a golden cage, a place that brought him ultimate glory but stripped away the right to live truthfully with his emotions. He no longer seeks to blame Nora or anyone else, but directly takes responsibility for the collapse of a musical icon that millions once worshipped. Dieter shared that, "At this age, you no longer need lies to protect your status. The truth is the only thing that helps me sleep well at night." This is a shocking psychological shift for a man who once declared that success was the sole measure of human value. Currently, Dieter Bohlen chooses a more private life, staying away from the noise of the showbiz world he once dominated. He asserts that there will never be a third reunion, not because money couldn't be made, but because he does not want to continue performing a play that is long outdated. The darkest secrets of Modern Talking have now been brought to light as a way for him to peacefully enter the final chapter of his life. Dieter views his legacy as a costly lesson for future generations about never trading the soul of art for fleeting glamour. The final truth Dieter wants to convey is that music can endure, but lies cannot. The classic hits will still play in nightclubs, but now they carry the story of a man who lost a lifetime learning how to tell the truth. The saga of Modern Talking and Dieter Bohlen's life is a costly testament that the brightest glamour sometimes covers the most bitter truths. If you found these hidden corners of the music world interesting, don't forget to like and share this video to support us. Please click the subscribe button and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next shocking stories about the legends you once loved. And you, what do you think about Dieter Bohlen's late confession? Leave your thoughts in the comments below.